This is the Crowdcrux Crowdfunding Podcast with Sal Briggman, where we cover everything you need to know to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign. We speak with proven entrepreneurs who've raised money from the crowd and want to teach you how to do the same. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal how to launch your dream project with your host, Sal Briggman.
Before we get started with this podcast episode, I want to take a second to introduce you to my friends at Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping out your Kickstarter or Indiegogo perks or rewards, Fulfillrite is the absolute best company for you. I've been working with them for a while and I can vouch for their services. They make it dead simple and take all of the headache out of shipping out all of those boxes, all of those orders to your backers and your customers. If you want to check them out, go to fulfillrite.com at fulfillrite.com. Hey, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman, and on this show, we get into how to successfully raise money on Kickstarter. How do you attract crowdfunding dollars? How do you even attract a crowd to begin with? And we do that by interviewing people, real-world individuals, entrepreneurs, creative types who are in the trenches right now, and they share with you exactly what is working, what's not working for their kind of category. If that's a board game, a tabletop game, could be a gadget or a gizmo, could be a new fashion line or apparel. I try to collect a lot of different types of creators on this show, so I urge you to dive into the archives of this podcast to discover a few more like that. I also put out YouTube videos. I have a blog, crowdcrux.com. And if you want to, you can hop on my newsletter, crowdcrux.com/subscribe. I got a lot of great stuff, or crowdcrux.com/newsletter. And I also have a book out there called The Kickstarter Launch Formula, which I can tell you a little bit more about at the end of this podcast episode. But my goal is that you feel good going into your project after listening to the show. You have a sense of what it's really like to run one of these campaigns. And also you have some inspiration, seeing people who are just like you, who don't know what they're doing necessarily, raise money successfully on Kickstarter. I think that's really inspirational. And a lot of these entrepreneurs as well, they face tremendous odds. And so many of them that I have talked to don't even have necessarily making large amounts of money as their motive. They kind of want to just impact the world. They want to put something out cool. They want to really have the product in people's hands so they can take that next step, so they can eventually start to iterate on the product, so they can get some great feedback and validation, so that for the marketing engine behind the campaign, they can get more attention on media outlets. All these different things are kind of like a nice bonus, I think, when you actually do a successful crowdfunding campaign. And there's something that I think we should all aspire to, is really trying to take away what that individual went through in order to really get this project funded. So some of these things that they're going to share are very practical advice and tips. Other things are more of like a mindset, if you will. Or how you should even approach this, or how you should think about this. How do you deal with some of the lulls in the campaign? How do you deal with the emotion and fear of putting yourself out there for everyone else to judge, which can be kind of scary? I hope that you enjoyed today's podcast episode. I'll tell you a little bit more about the Kickstarter launch formula at the end of this show. And without further ado, let's get into today's podcast episode. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we have the privilege of speaking with a female creator who has attracted more than 6,000 backers, contributed over $200,000 for a really interesting puzzly tile laying game of quilts and cats, which we'll get into in just a second. We have the creator here with us today, and she's going to get into some of the stuff that she's learned, some of the stuff that she'd like to pass on to you, as well as tell us a little bit more about her project. Molly, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Can we get started? Maybe you could just share with the guests a little bit about what this project is for those who haven't seen the Kickstarter before. How do you play it? Just give us a ballpark idea there.
For sure. The project is Calico, and it is a board game. It is a puzzly tile laying game for 1 to 4 players. And the object of this game is to build the coziest quilt and then have the most cats come and curl up on your quilt. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most points, so you score points through adding buttons and cats and meeting personal objectives, the person with the most points wins.
And are these real cats, or is that part of the game?
They are tokens with cats on them. And if I'm not giving away too much from the Kickstarter now, we had a pledge level where people could donate a much larger amount of money than just getting the game and get their cat in the game. So we have
You get a
handful
featured
of
cat.
cats. We get a featured cat. Yeah.
That's really cool. It's
So
also
they're all real cats.
it's also really appropriate for wintertime, honestly. It's a really unique idea. Like, how did you come up with this? Was this in design for like a few years or a few months, or how did you come up with the idea?
So a little bit of a backstory. I am one member of Flat Out Games, and Flat Out Games was formed several years ago. My partner, Sean Stankiewicz, and our good friend, Rob Melvin. We have all loved games for a very long time, and a few years ago decided that we would start a board game design collaborative. So I am the owner of that business, but the three of us have worked extensively on our own games for several years. We just had a game published last August called Point Salad by Alderac Entertainment Group, AEG, and we're very excited about that. But we traveling around a lot, playing other people's games in playtesting. People play ours, we play other people's. Sean was at a convention last year with lots of other designers and played Kevin Russ's game, which became Calico. It started out Quixotic Quilts was its name. Sean played it and said, this game is incredible. I know this wasn't really part of our immediate plan, but I think we should publish this game. I think this has unbelievable potential. Mm-hmm. So, of course, the first time I played it, I thought this game it was totally a great puzzle and really the kind of game we like to play, a spatial puzzle with just that very beautiful. We could see it with very beautiful art and a very simplified Euro style game that would be really accessible to a wide audience. That was, that's always in how we think about game design, and it's the kind of games we like to play. So it appealed to us, and it was okay, well, let's do this. and here we are, like a year later, with a completed Kickstarter.
What was your role here with the project? Because I know there's a lot of components that kind of go into the team behind a game. What was sort of your role?
Well, I have to say, I have a busy full-time job that has nothing to do with this. So I let the team, so Sean really spearheaded the Kickstarter and got everybody organized. And what we did, kind of an unusual thing, was to open it up to all the contributors. So while the designer, Kevin, has a royalty percentage of the Kickstarter, we assembled a team. And I think really I have to attribute this to Sean, very clever in thinking, let's bring people in as developers, as graphic designers, and logistics, and put a team together so it distributes the
work, all the elements, yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that was a huge part of this is the three of us could have done it, but it would have been an entirely different project.
You might not also maintain your sanity while you were doing it there.
No, there was no way. So bringing people in and then saying, look, we're not going to pay you for the time. We're going to pay you as a percentage of your time on this project. So it was a
it's risky.
Profit shared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like it worked out though.
Yeah. In this case, it worked out. Yeah. So, as one of my lessons learned, I would say distributing the workload to a team of people who have very different skill sets or have the ability to do different things. So, for example, Dylan Mangini, who is a great graphic designer, could just take on the graphic design work. He worked with Kevin, who's the designer, who also has graphic skills and very artistic. The two of them could really help put together the pages we needed and the design of the game.
Now, one of the questions I had also here was just on that point. You guys had worked successfully as a team with Flat Out Games. It seems like a few other times, right?
Yes.
Why did Kickstarter enter the picture here? Like, why did you decide to go that route? Because unless I could be wrong here, but I just saw that you created one. Have you done others, or?
This is the only one. This is the first one. We have plans for a second. I can get into that later if you like. But I think there's something one of the things I've always liked to do is sell things and promote things. It's just, I love it. I've worked farmers markets and events, and organizing that kind of stuff has been the kind of environment I like to be in. So going to a con, being at a booth, talking to people about games, promoting games, I'm in a very happy place doing that. So promoting a Kickstarter, getting into developing games, getting into publishing games seemed like a logical progression. It wasn't completely out of the blue. I didn't realize I really had that kind of entrepreneurial thing until really the three of us started working on things. And Sean certainly has it, and I think has made no bones about it. Been very clear that he would love to own a business, and so we've just played off each other in that way over the last several years.
So given the success, of your other games here, you guys raised like 200,000, 6,000 backers. That's insane. That's incredible. And you also get all of this funding and all of this attention before you even, go into the production of the game. So it's kind of like a different animal, I feel. Usually when you're buying something on Amazon or you go into a store, it's like you get it right then and there or within 2 or 3 days. With this, there's a little bit more of a lag time, Did you expect to have this level of success? It seems like people were coming in from all over the world. Just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, I think, this is where we wanted to be in our wildest dreams. I think we kind of hit that mark. Whether we were going to get there, we weren't entirely sure. We knew what the reception of the game had been anytime we played it with people. So that helped. We were at a lot of conventions leading up to the game being on Kickstarter. I think being at Gen Con and having people see the banner, we'd had a little banner made of the cover of the game as listeners will, if they can look at it online. Beth Sobel did unbelievably beautiful art. It's not unbelievable for her. She is incredible, and we love her stuff. She created the ginger cat that's on the cover, and people were sucked in. And anyone who loves cats really wants to know about the game. Anyone who loves the kind of spatial puzzle games really wants to know about the game. I think that created quite a lot of buzz, which really helped. Like, people were curious enough about it that then they found out more about it. Mm-hmm. And we haven't done the whole kind of debrief about where everything came from and how things spread, but we're getting the sense that people who backed the game, people who'd seen us at Origins, people who'd seen us at Gen Con, that's huge exposure at those two conventions. People who had followed us on Instagram or followed us on Twitter, as soon as they saw that picture and they knew a little bit about the game, told other people they knew that they had backed this game. And I think that actually had quite a big effect. It also really, really helped to have Kickstarter make us a project we love. We are so grateful. I think we don't know how that, what decisions get made to make that happen. But I think that really helped us in those first few days to get a project we love. Gave us a huge boost. Mm-hmm. And once you're in that kind of cycle, that it just generates that bit more energy. So
one of the things that I think is so difficult about doing a board game or any kind of game is you kind of have to get people interested without them being able to play the game virtually. So if you have someone who's in Texas and they see this project, they can't really play the game. They're just kind of vibing off of your marketing and such. Did you do anything in terms of like getting reviewers to comment or give testimonials, or how did you sort of solve that problem?
That was you've hit on, what we think is probably the best return on investment was to make up 6 or 8 copies kind of mini versions. So the box was just a bit smaller, easier to mail around. Versions of the game, prototypes of the game. Mm-hmm. And we created a list. We had games sent around to reviewers in different parts of the US and overseas. And that really helped to do some paid promotion of people doing how to plays and reviews, where I think, having watched many YouTube videos of people playing games early on in our kind of adventure in game design, really helps. When I get a new game, I really love to watch a how to play. So I guess we just decided that was also quite useful to get a real sense of, here's someone playing with using the tiles, placing them in the double layer player board, picking the cat from the pile. Oh, this cat sees the pattern, making it very clear for people, or as clear as possible. So I think having those reviewers, having the how to plays, having the playthroughs, having the mini reviews in the Kickstarter page was really essential. It gave us some really great quotes, and it gave people a variety of options of looking through, how does this game really look?
Mm-hmm. And they also give you an idea of like kind of what category the game falls in, or what are some of the rivals, or like if you like this kind of game, you might like this. So I think it's really important. And I also think it's kind of like an organic process. Like you mentioned going to farmers markets and really enjoying selling and getting kind of that facial time with people and getting feedback and stuff. That's also an element of a Kickstarter campaign. Like you're getting people to comment, you're getting people to give you ideas. Did that strategy that you had kind of morph or change at all based on the feedback you were getting with the project?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, our first Kickstarter, we looked at lots of other pages leading up to ours. We asked a lot of people we knew who'd been on Kickstarter what their advice was, but I don't think we really anticipated how invested, how attached, how engaged people would be. We get, like you said, 6,000 plus backers. Thank you very much, all of you. We are so grateful. 6,000 plus backers. We didn't realize 25 of you would be following along so intently, maybe more. There were, classic, so-and-so commented so-and-so commented on this other person's thought. They've had some engagement. They've, like what we're doing for a stitch goal. They aren't sure that this is the best stitch goal. There's things they really want out of the game. They were adding comments about suggesting stitch goals. We knew a little of that would happen, but it was very interesting. And yes, I think they did take the campaign, certainly confirmed for us there were things that people would really want to see when we reached different funding goals. Mm-hmm. So beneficial for sure. Yeah.
I kind of think of it as like co-creation almost, because you as a creator have this idea of how the game is going to play out. You have an idea of how the campaign is going to go, but then you have all this group of people. You have more than 1,000 comments on the page, people giving their input, people saying what they like and don't like. It's almost like you create something new together, kind of. I think that's a really neat part of crowdfunding.
It was, and all the comments came in, right away. People had questions, and sometimes people would have questions midway through. What was great was that other people, if we didn't get to it, sometimes we're all doing a million things. We didn't get to the question for a few hours. Sometimes some of the other commenters would weigh in and let the person know, a few days ago they mentioned, these things would be different in the game, or this is where they're thinking they're going, or yes, the reason they're not doing this is X, whatever the thing was. But what was completely overwhelming, and really, I shouldn't say surreal, it was just tremendously overwhelming, I guess, that when the campaign finished, so many people, and people who'd had their moments of not being sure we were doing the right thing, being sometimes a little bit critical, weighed in at the end with these just congratulations and very excited and so supportive. And reading all of those comments, especially after a month-long campaign, to see, thanks so much, you guys. Like, this is really, really great. And it really shows you that people care about a thing that they are helping to have happen. They are kickstarting this project. And so that was a really, for me, a bit of an unexpected touch. I can understand wanting to follow along to see if things are going to get to where they get, but then taking the time when it's over to say, hey, you did it. Your team made this thing happen, and we are so excited for you. That's really, really a nice kind of tie off to the end of that online thing that's happening. Of course, we are continuing to talk to people about people who are pledging. We want to set up a potentially pledge manager for pre-orders, and retailers are interested. So our communication is continuing with people, but that was a really nice. I'm really grateful to those people, not only for their contribution, but for taking the time to say that to us afterwards.
It kind of reminds me almost of watching a sports team and kind of like you're rooting alongside wanting your team to win. You're not playing the game, but you feel like you're playing a bit,
Well, we had a pretty, nail biter leading up to the last, half hour, not knowing we'd had it set a final stitch goal at 200,000, and we didn't know. Some of the team will say we knew we'd get there. I never want to count those chickens till they're hatched. And so on my way to work the last morning, I'm following along, what's going to happen? And so I think people then were really, that really was that end of that big event for people. So
definitely
a sports team. I mean, I don't know, but it's very flattering.
I have one or two technical questions for you here.
Sure.
You mentioned as part of the research process, looking at other campaigns and even talking to other campaigners. What are 2 or 3 things that you took away about running a successful project that you could pass on to the audience here?
Gosh. Well, that there's a lot. There are so many details.
You have kind of the marketing and then the logistics side. Yeah.
You have the marketing and the logistics side. Well, I think it starts so far. It starts so early. As soon as you think, okay, maybe we'll go to Kickstarter with this game. There's building the crowd. So thinking about when you're going to go, what's the reasonable time frame? It's the Gantt chart of all the stuff, right? It's the whole project management of the thing. It's when's a reasonable time for us to go? How will we be ready? Because we pretty much want to press print now.
I gotta introduce you to a killer resource, The Gadget Flow. Their website reaches more than 28 million people per month. Brands like DJI, HP, and Pioneer have used them to increase awareness and boost sales, along with more than 4,000 crowdfunding campaigns. They have a new unboxing series on YouTube where you can get your product unboxed by a tech expert. Lastly, you can get feedback for your crowdfunding campaign and increase conversions by using Crowd Insight. You can check them out at thegadgetflow.com.
We've got a few things we need to lay out, final details of punch boards and the fine tuning, but the game is ready. We are ready. And we didn't want to do a campaign and not be able to do that, within a few months of the campaign ending. So there's the huge, long-term project management. What's the date we're going to go? Okay, we're going to do that. What are all the things that have to happen? We want to make sure we have an audience. We want to know we have, 1,000 people on an email list. The emails, maybe 30% of them are going to open the email. So you want to know you're going to have that many people. We want to know which conventions we're going to be at. We want to know how long is it going to take to get the reviewers. We're going to get the prototypes made. We got to get them to reviewers. The reviewers have to have enough time to do a review, a video, get that back to us. The page takes a lot of time. A lot of hours were spent making sure and looking at lots and lots of other Kickstarter campaigns. What are the good ways to lay it out? How clear do we want the information? What are our pledge levels going to be? Making sure we had a video done for the page. When does that have to happen? Everybody's scheduling, especially with a bigger team. Making sure everyone has time to do the things that have to get done. So the upfront stuff was actually really, really a lot of work, and I would say to anyone who wants to do it. Do not underestimate how many details you need to think through in advance. And having a crowd, having the buzz, getting all the details of the page together takes a lot longer than you think.
In terms of like a time frame for you, for your specific campaign, what would you say was your like ideal time frame? Were you preparing for 2 months? Was it a month? Was it 3 months? Can you just give us an idea there?
Like how much we needed in advance?
Yeah.
Gosh. What did we? So this is October, November.
November, yeah.
We were probably thinking of it from June. So almost 6 months.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you also
we had thought we might go a little later. Mm-hmm. We wanted to have a window of time, September to November, and then we thought, well, we're ready. Let's just gonna go now.
Yeah, at a certain point in time, you just gotta take action.
Yeah.
You're never gonna have all the ducks in the row, but you gotta get most of them at least. One of the things I had there was like in your planning stages, you have a lot of these stitch goals, which I like that kind of like play on words there. When it came to the logistics of the project, that's something I think that there's just not enough information and education about. What were your thoughts on the logistics, like in terms of the rewards and coming up with the stretch goals? Like, what was your thought process there? Were you trying to keep it simple? Were you just trying to pack as much value in as possible? What was your thought process?
Yeah, I would say we took quite a large lead from Joseph Chen and Justin Faulkner, who did Fantastic Factories, which ran about June, a year ago, June, I think. It's like about a year ago, did their campaign. We know Justin and Joseph, and they are, part of a larger group of Seattle designers. So there's been a lot of conversation with them, and we've asked them a lot of questions, but we also looked at a lot of other campaigns, the kinds of things people were including at what stages. Sean absolutely wanted to create the best value proposition for people. We wanted to keep the game, especially on Kickstarter, at a really reasonable price. We decided to add shipping after, whereas Fantastic Factories included shipping in the price. So choices like that. I mean, those are big. There were a lot of conversations. Which way do we go? How do we want to present this? We wanted people to be able to look at the page, look at the price, and say, I looks like I'm getting this game, and I'm getting it maybe a bit of a discount. I'm getting it because I'm willing to back it now, and
you're getting a good deal.
You're getting a good deal for taking the faith and supporting this project. We want to give you the best possible deal. And, a lot of conversations, Sean, certainly a lot of conversations with different manufacturers, a broad range of manufacturers. What are the price points for this layer of punchboard? What are the price points for this, really punchboard was our thing, depth of punchboard, the finish on the punchboard, finish on the tiles. We added a bag at the end for some of the tiles. We had people doing that research, thinking about, what are our price points? How does this change the percentage? What is the cost to this component in the game? And thinking about weight, so that it was always a balance too. A lot of punchboard makes a game quite heavy, and that adds to the shipping. So there's all these balances. Like, we want to make the game the best game it can be. We don't want, to make the box too much bigger. And one of the issues with a game with a lot of punchboard is you don't want to make the box too big, just to accommodate the punchboard that isn't necessarily going to stay in the game. There's really a vast number of questions around that kind of manufacturing logistics, shipping logistics. David Yetzi, who is a great designer, came on as a developer, and he also did a huge amount of work reaching out to all the logistics people, thinking about what our options were in terms of fulfillment and distribution. So there isn't necessarily a one-stop shop guide. I think the team has been getting into who the best contacts are, building relationships with those manufacturers and fulfillment businesses, asking anyone who will talk to us about their Kickstarter experiences. And that just comes from the really, I would say, in this piece we haven't really talked about, having a really great community of people to draw on in Seattle, really throughout North America and Europe, to talk to about things that work and things that don't, and who we should talk to about different details of campaigns has been unbelievably beneficial. And that is in huge part. So we all run different pieces of things. Sean is on Kickstarter a lot, is on Twitter a lot, really building that community up, being able to get in touch with people, ask questions, has been invaluable. Like we can even put a price on that.
Yeah, I think that's incredible as well, that you're able to span so many different types of disciplines. And I think that's only accomplished with having a team, because you can be really great at selling or be really creative, but then you're not so as good at, dotting your I's and crossing your T's and doing all the spreadsheet stuff. But then someone else is really good at that. So it's kind of like tackling all of these different types of tasks, and also surrounding yourself with a team of people and mentors, and talking to other, business owners and creative types to really figure out what is it actually like to do one of these things, and kind of educating yourself a bit before you go live. So that's why I also appreciate you doing a podcast like this, because there are people just like you out there that are interested in raising money on Kickstarter, and you sharing this education information is really going to help them, I think. So my final question for you here, and I don't really know what your answer is going to be, but I was kind of curious in that I think the Kickstarter is very heavily male dominated, just from the demographics, but also the statistics behind it. And there are also a lot more creators that are male centric. Are there any thoughts that you have about that when it comes to either the customer base or your own experience as sort of like a female leader in this space? Could it honestly be just that there is no difference? But I was just kind of curious. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I would say I don't think of myself as the leader. I happen to be the business owner, and, certainly have an interest in all of the things that are happening in terms of part of the campaign. Certainly with the team, I don't feel like the woman on the team. And in board games, I don't know about Kickstarter more generally. I have seen some great female-led projects on Kickstarter, so I hadn't really thought about that too much. I do think about what it means to identify as a woman and be in the world. So I certainly have that perspective, and certainly over time in board games. And what I would say is that there are actually a lot of really unbelievably excellent women in board games. And I think that particular sector of Kickstarter is changing. I think that particular the industry is maybe changing. I notice it in the world, and I notice the gender I identify with experience in the world. With this project, I actually don't feel it so much, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a difference.
Yeah, totally. I think also honestly, a big part of crowdfunding is that it kind of takes away the middleman. So it really empowers independent creators to just put out their creative work and to have the crowd judge it, So it kind of removes those gatekeepers. I think that's why in general we see so many more tabletop and board games emerging, and even small people who maybe only have a small team are able to build a business out of it because of that. And they're able to connect with like their own little niche communities, versus had they gone through like a traditional publisher, it's a little bit harder. You need something that has really broad appeal, all the time. So I think in general, it's just kind of being
that
liberated.
Is incredible.
Yeah.
It is incredible that gaming the range of things that are under the umbrella of gaming have been possible because of Kickstarter. And I feel like one of the niche things, the industries that's really been transformed by Kickstarter. So that's pretty interesting. It's been really great. And I think there are a lot of really great projects out there, and it does allow that flexibility. And really the thing is, you can get a game made. We set our funding goal quite low. I think figuring out some of your basic bottom line, if you want to get a crowd to support you, that it is possible. And Kickstarter allows that. So it doesn't need to go, you don't need to shoot for the moon. You could just say, I just really want to make this thing happen. Set a modest goal, figure out your minimums and try it. But I would say, do not underestimate the amount of work it is.
Well said. Well, Molly, thank you for coming on the show. Where can people go to learn a little bit more about your game and also pre-order it if they want to?
Okay, so we have a fun email. We have a fun website, and it is flatout, FLATOUT.games. So that's the main way to get in touch with us and look at the games we've got out there. We are on Twitter, Flat Out Games. We are on Instagram. We're on Facebook. You can email us flatoutgamesmail at gmail.com. So flatoutgamesmail@gmail.com.
And if nothing else, there is a really cute photo of a cat on your recent board game. So guys, go and check that out. It's really cute. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you sharing all of this information, being super transparent, and also sharing a little bit of your story there. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll have you back.
Thanks so much for having me.
Shipping and mailing from your desk has never been simpler than with SendPro Online from Pitney Bowes. With SendPro Online, it's just click, send, and save for as low as $4.99. That's $4.99 a month. Schedule package pickups and track shipments from departure to arrival. And for being a CrowdCrux listener, you'll receive a free 30-day trial to get started and a free 10-pound scale to ensure that you'll never overpay. Just go to pb.com/CrowdCrux to access this special offer for a free 30-day trial plus a free 10-pound scale to get started. That's pb.com/CrowdCrux to experience shipping made simple with a free trial of SendPro Online from Pitney Bowes. Hey, thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. If you haven't yet, take a second to rate and review us on iTunes. And in addition, along with sort of discovering and unearthing some of these concepts and principles and tactics and tools and strategies for you, the podcast is, of course, sort of meant to give you that inspiration, like I was saying at the beginning. But if you're just kind of looking to get to the meat of this, like you really just want to know, okay, what's the game plan here? What do I got to do going forward? What should I know about the marketing? How do I build a crowd? How do I get people backing my project on day one? What do I do when I fall short? What are some of the creative marketing approaches out there for getting a project funded? If that's the kind of stuff you want to know and you feel like you've been kind of hunting around with the different podcasts and you're pasting it together, but you kind of want something more all in one place, I have a great audiobook out there, the Kickstarter Launch Formula. You can pick up a copy on Audible. Just go to crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. You can pick up a copy if you want. You can also get a free trial of Audible. I really recommend that as a great learning kind of hub, if you will, for not only learning about crowdfunding, but learning about other kinds of things related to marketing. I use a lot of audiobooks and podcasts myself to forward my own skills and knowledge and education. And I think that along with having the right tools and the right education, having a mentor can always help you. So if you're interested, I talk about in some other episodes of my podcast ways you can work with me. I'm not going to get into that too much today. But today, I think a great starting point, if you are just now in the preparation stage, is the Kickstarter Launch Formula, which again, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. Go grab a copy on Audible, or you can join my newsletter at crowdcrux.com/newsletter. And every once in a while, I'll send out some emails, give you some free advice, some free tips, and free education and content that I am putting together. Wherever you are in the world, I hope that you've taken away something from this episode. You feel a bit more confident going into your campaign, and stay tuned for our next one.